Man, Toga's crazy.
Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L. The sun came up, we made it on the internet, and I hope you keep making it through your day. Today, I've got a My Hero Academia video for you. And if you like that, please let me know by either commenting, liking, or subscribing. I need to tell you guys this because YouTube needs me to do calls to action. I think that's what they're officially called. Anyway, this time specifically, we're going into a video covering Toga's quirk and the recent developments with it, and then some speculation based on what we have seen so far up to chapter 227. That is effectively the power logic part of the video where we overanalyze little bits of information that we have been given so far. So, let's not take long. Quick recap on Toga's quirk. Toga's quirk is called Transformation. It lets her turn into people whose blood she drinks. The transformation is a ridiculously perfect copy, even gets the voice down. The transformation duration is limited only by the quantity of blood that Toga drinks. 1 cup of blood equates to 1 day of transformation, more or less. Here's some smaller details. When Toga uses transformation, she produces a lot of liquid. This liquid is the basis by which the transformation is allowed to happen. The slime is used to produce the excess material that Toga's transformation requires, like for instance, the clothing of Toga's targets. Also, Toga can layer transformations. In other words, she doesn't need to turn back into Toga. Instead, she can switch from one form to the other in quick succession. For example, she can switch from Ochako to Kami without revealing the Toga in between. This was seen during the provisional license exam. Anyway, here's the new information from chapter 226 of the manga. Toga can use the quirks of the person she is transformed into. The example being, she used Ochako's quirk, Zero Gravity. Now here's where we move into the power logic / speculation part of the video, because there's a few more things that popped up. But since we only have one example to analyze, I don't think there's going to be enough information to be 100% sure of any of the speculation. Take it with a grain of salt, but I will do my best to convince you of anything, and I'll try to produce as much evidence as I can for my reasoning. Regarding Toga's quirk copying, it seems that using someone's quirk creates a new limit for Toga. The moment Toga uses a quirk, her transformation starts getting undone. We had 2 prominent examples, here and here. Now the thing is, Toga said she only had a little bit of blood left. What that sounds like to me is that maybe using the target's quirk accelerates the blood consumption rate. In regards to whether or not she could always do this, you know, the whole quirk copying, Toga discovered it along with everyone else reading the chapter. The situation leading up to the moment had Toga very desperate. In her trying to get her enemy away from her, she touched her while she was Ochako, and it worked. Some fans have been saying that Toga knew what she was doing, but the panel right after that, note the surprise, implies that she didn't, and the lead up before she actually used the quirk had the girl getting very desperate and seeking refuge in the people she loved. I think it's solid to say, the desperation triggered it. Regarding the slime, an interesting property came up here during this very hectic fight. Specifically this, the old blood remains on her face. This was surprising since this makes the transformation seem more like a mask that covers Toga's body instead of a body reconfiguration. And this question whether it's a mask or a full transformation is actually really important for speculation because it changes some of the finer details. If you ask me which of the two it is, I'm gonna say it's a full body reconfiguration, with a special note that it giving the impression of a mask might have been because previously in the chapter, the author used mask imagery and the concept of masking oneself to describe Toga, so the impression it gives off at the end might be there in order to continue the mask motif. The reason I'd say it's a full body reconfiguration is this thing right here, the teeth. Toga has protruded canines which disappear when she transforms. In other words, mass is being removed visually, but it's more likely that the extra bits are being reshaped and repurposed into other parts of Toga's transformation. A simple masking process, however, wouldn't account for the missing mass. The reason I doubted the full body reconfiguration was because of the presence of the old blood that Toga had on her face. When Toga transforms, she can't do anything about the foreign objects like the clothing that she was wearing before the transformation. It's why she gets naked. I thought that the dried blood would also be a foreign object, so to say, because it's outside of her body. The dried blood gave the impression that the slime was covering instead of converting. Keeping in mind what we talked about previously, this shows that the dried blood is actually still part of Toga and therefore still legal to be affected in the transformation process. The big takeaway here though is that Toga's quirk saves the location of Toga's damage. That's very interesting. Anyway, since we're talking about foreign objects, isn't it weird that Toga can produce people's gear? Think about that for a second, let it marinate. We have no rules that govern why Toga can produce people's gear. Blood can't inform you of inorganic material. So there's 2 things that opened up in my mind. 1, Toga does not need to be naked. I mean, come on. If she can produce people's clothing, she can obviously cover herself up after she's done a transformation. And I know it's a silly point. Toga's a villain and everything and she can do what she wants. Maybe she gets kicks from streaking, like who knows? It's just funny. Second point, Toga could realistically disguise herself as a rock, or the rock, or Tony the Tiger, i.e. make a mascot outfit. There's no reason she can't do this if she can go as far as copying Ochako's full outfit. Look, like she even got the 2 dots. Heck, she could probably also do that Naruto trick with the sheet that looks like lumber and, you know, just kind of hide themselves in plain sight. Or she could just make herself camouflage print. Again, given that she can copy the appearance of materials, I see no reason why these options are impossible. However, it does make me wonder if Toga doesn't realize she can do this. Chapter 226 effectively confirms Toga doesn't know the full extent of her power. What if she can actually copy materials without limit, but she thinks she can only do it when she's transforming into someone else? It would be like a mental sort of block. Going back to quirks, there's one more thing that pops up that gives Toga an insanely unique advantage over how Ochako can use her quirk. That is, the possibility that Toga can turn the quirk off. The first big question before we dive into this, however, is Ochako's quirk always on? I've done my best to look around. Most fans seem to agree it's always on. And when I say always on, I mean we know Ochako's quirk activates only when all 5 finger pads touch an ungrounded object. The question here would be, can she touch an object with all 5 pads without activating her quirk? Well, check this panel out. This panel implies that Ochako can't do much about whether or not the quirk activates if all 5 fingers make contact. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a need to draw her with her pinky extended. In this case, Ochako's quirk is like Shigaraki's. All 5 fingers touch and away we go. Anyway, what that brings me to is the fact that Toga can turn the quirk off. Proof is here in the provisional license exam where Toga had a ball she made full contact with that was swatted away by Izuku. And look, no floats. A great distinction, but I do think we'll need more examples just to make sure about this particular property. One last thing on quirks. After this chapter, people started trying to figure out rules on whose quirks Toga could copy. I've seen a few people suggest that Toga can only copy what's on the outside, so mutation type quirks are pretty much the go-to ones, but may not be able to copy something like Momo's or Tokoyami's. This is busted logic. Here's why. Toga's transformation is implied to be body reconfiguration instead of just masking, so the necessity of quirk features being visible is busted since Toga is taking in genetic information through the blood for one, her body is in fact changing, and better yet, Toga's voice changes. The voice change in particular disproves the visual necessity component very simply because you can't visually quantify a voice. And besides, Toga's copying things at a genetic level. I know it's weird to imagine that Toga could copy a quirk that's centered in, say, inside someone's stomach, but she's copying the vocal cords, which are inside someone's throat. So I think it's fair to say that it doesn't really matter where the quirk's origin is located. I think it'd be safer to apply monoma rules when it comes to determining what quirks can and can't be copied effectively. Although, as you can see, the example we have of Fat Gum might not be the best example. Monoma can't copy that quirk effectively since it relies on extra fat. But Toga could realistically make up the difference with her slime, right? Like, I think that's fair, so that might be one where Toga can copy it better. Although the big point here is, I think Toga can't copy Izuku's quirk. She just can't copy the stockpile. Although she could copy the capabilities of the quirk in the same way that Monoma most likely copied the capabilities of the quirk. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. I realize I might have been talking really quickly. I'm just trying to make these videos snappy and reduce how much time I have to spend editing. Still, I hope it was understandable, and hey, if it didn't work out for you, just turn the speed down to 0.75. It'll probably go better. Anyway, did you see the thumbnail? Like, oh my gosh, look at that art. That was done by the wonderful Sakimichan? I think that's how you pronounce it. She is a wonderful artist over on deviantart. Maybe you've seen some of her works wandering around the internet. She graciously allowed us to use one of her images for the thumbnail. I'm eternally grateful. I've linked her DeviantArt and Patreon account down below in case you want to check it out. Her Patreon has one of the better setups I've seen, where she offers opportunity to learn how to do the things she does. So if you're interested in that, highly recommend checking it out. Do note, some of her content is not suitable for work. You might be able to tell that already. But yeah, my gratitude to Sakimichan and to all of you guys for sticking through the video and watching. Thank you very much. And now with that, I will officially say, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.